I've got plates. Cool. Yeah, let's go. So, hello, hi. How are you? So, light's going to start to fade. No, oh, please, sorry. I realise this is a little weird. I never meant to bring this here. I originally did this so it would only ever be performed in my living room. Mainly because my access needs are best suited by my living room. But my ego's emotional access needs best suited by this. So we're here. Now, we were going to do a thing back there. Oh yeah, there's nothing back there. There's just lots of stage back there. But it didn't work. There would have been a you and a me and a them and a them and a you and a me. And it wouldn't have been us. So it's just you and me, and it's legally close to you as health and safety would allow me. So, I only wrote this yesterday. Alright, yeah, and it would have just been artifice, really, because all that was just a feeling. You know, in the old days, when there'd like be only one house in the street, have a TV, and everybody go around to watch like the big things like the Coronation, or the 6-6 World Cup, or Strictly. So basically, think of me like a TV programme, but in better. I'm in 3D, not IMAX 3D, but you know, for a 40-year-old Irish guy, I'm not doing too badly. So this show, it's chat, let's just call it, it's a thing, nothing special. Lasts about an hour. If you've got a body that's fidgety and a bit thingy like mine, and you want to move about, please feel free to. Basically, we're running a latecomers will be welcome policy here. That will get a cheer, you'd be surprised when people hate that. Now look, I'm only saying this bit now because basically with an accent like mine, you have to like let people's ears warm up a little bit. And now that I've had a look at you, you look like good-ish people. The kind of people when you hear something tragic, you don't go, he fell over. You have one of like those lofty emotions like empathy. But the thing I've learned from doing this is that empathy and laughter don't really mix. If you've ever been on a mindfulness course, you'll know exactly what I mean. And there will be moments that might go, oh, I want to give him a hug. Oh, I kind of want to laugh at that too. And empathy and laughter will have a little fight. So basically what I say to you is, to hell with empathy. Just not like full lifestyle choice, just for the next hour. You can laugh at, with everything here. If you're the kind of person who laughs inappropriately, you're amongst friends. What do we got? Now, I realise that I'm a little bit close to you and the house lights haven't gone down, and you might be worrying that you're now unwilling participants in the most feared thing in all of theatre, audience participation. And especially for anybody who's ever seen me before, that fear is a little bit ramped up. There will be no audience participation. Well, there will be a few moments of prolonged eye contact, but nothing weird, you know, like, so just about that. So that's sort of feel okay. So, whee! Hello, my name's Connor, hi. The reason you're here today is because I'm what's known as an eavesdropping hobbyist. I used to run a thing on Twitter and Facebook called Overheard in the Arndale for about 5 or 6 years. I was actually going to call this Overheard in the Arndale, but then I got a little worried about what would happen if you got a shopping centre angry at you. So instead we've got Learning to Swim in an Ironing Board, because I love titles that are too big to conveniently go on a poster. The reason I decided to do this chat was because people online and in real life kind of gave me the impression they thought I like sauntered down Market Street with a wandering cup of coffee in one hand and an antiquated listening device disguised as a ham sandwich in the other, looking for an entrance to the mythical land of the Arndale. It's not like that. I go in via Aldi like everybody else up the convenient escalator along the weird bargain bin aisle. You can tell a lot about a doctor by the way they put the rubber gloves on. From there I'll make my way downstairs to Hollis Square and I'll ascend the stairs like Gene Kelly in the Busby Berkeley movies. And I'll sit with the napping nanas and the flustered parents letting my ears get ready for eavesdropping. No one needs to drill that much more in. They have to be overcompensating for something. From there, the gauntlet must be ran past the noise blister of youthful fashion boutiques, dodging the siren call of Licenza, and around the corner to the newsagents that soon to become the closest thing we have to a public library, all the while keeping my ears open for the telltale signs of a good conversation. I was a sort of drunk, you know, where you think you're in a French movie, And next we go to the River Island of top men, where white trainer dads make bad fashion choices and get sympathy cards from the kids. Oh, the 90s weren't good to you, Dad, were they? And from there, we make our way to Winter Gardens, which on first impressions might make you think you've gone back to the 1990s and you should just go upstairs, a nice new bit by the lift. But you'd be missing out on the hidden away coffee shops, the proverbial backstreet pubs of the shopping centre, where the coffee's as strong as opinions that drink them. That's all well and good, Mum, but you weren't a Spice Girl. After I've exhausted downstairs, I'll head upstairs and pick a railing to loiter on, let words flit by me as whispers and shouts. I can't wait to glitter up, Albert! There's something incredibly, about a well-executed three-point turn. Eavesdropping's not like that. It's, if anything, more of a one-wheel on the curb attempt at listening. Like I've collected, I think it's something like 500 overheards, which sounds impressive, but that's over 5 years, and if you do some simple maths, that's 2 a week. If you take 2 weeks holiday a year, the maths geeks. And some weeks it's less than that. Some weeks the public can be a little bit boring. But we're not here to talk about you. Now, folk have asked me for advice over the years, like what's the best time of day, where's the best place, should I wear disguise? Now obviously I'm not going to give away all my secrets to some random in the pub, but I always tell them the golden rule of eavesdropping. It's not about where you stand, it's about who you follow. So, and that really sets people on edge. Words. Yes. So, first time I went out to eavesdrop, maybe because of some naive optimism based on owning ears for 30, 40 plus years, I presumed I'd come home with a notepad filled with literary gemstones. I couldn't have been more wrong. A donkey with a badly bashed in ear horn would have done better. Like the first place I went was the food court, which on first impression seems like an obvious choice. There's lots of people, they're sitting, eating, they're sitting and eating. But the thing is, people in food courts can be as fast as their food, and occasionally the conversations as disposable as their cups. You need to start with the coffee shop, the tea room, the cafe, the consumerist meditation zones of the shopping centre. Now pick one that has a steamer. It doesn't need to be a fancy copper and brass Willy Wonka-like contraption. The persistent bubble of a burko and a greasy spoon will work just as well. It doesn't matter, as long as it makes the customers talk a little louder. Now personally I like the coffee shop. There's a better selection of cake, and if there's even a suggestion of expertise written in Italian on a t-shirt, I'll gormlessly wait an extra 30 seconds for unnecessary latte art. Now, use your time in the queue wisely. Who you sit near is everything. Now in the beginning I recommend looking for the family. Now look for the family with the most harassed looking dad. You know, you can tell by the vein on his temple that he's counting every minute because he doesn't feel it's a privilege to pay £5 an hour for parking. So my kids can spend £4 on a bar of soap. But if you choose wisely, you will hear things like this. How come the kids can go in the Lego shop and I can't? Have we changed our fabric softener because I'm having a tremendous amount of belly button fluff? While she's asleep, let's just sit here and stop being parents for a bit. If the kid's awake, you will hear things like this. Mum, 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 mum. Do you think fish enjoy peeing in the sea as much as Dad does? I'm not being emotional. I'm 4. Don't forget the grandparents of the shopping centres, because they've kind of got these little special World War II little sugar twists of wisdom. There's 2 types of single people. Them that sleep in the centre of the bed, and them that don't. And time seems to have etched love on and in them in ways I've yet to feel. It's the little things I miss. He'd always leave enough water in the kettle for me morning cuppa. He was a lovely old man, I just wanted to give him a hug. Now look, I realise some of you look down your noses at those eavesdropping hobbyists. I get it. Eavesdropping is at the very least a worrying pastime for someone who isn't a character in Last of Summer Wine or applying for a job at the CIA. So when I started doing this, I didn't really let people know I was doing it. Eventually I told my friend Terry. Technically speaking, he's not my friend, he's my therapist. I know, laugh it up, Terry the therapist, but he's the first real world example of alliterative determinism. He's like Thomas the Tank Engine, but real. And I told him, because that's what you do in therapy, and the whole eavesdropping thing was kind of sort of his fault. You see, in an early session, I'd said to him that when I was younger, I used to think that how I thought was wrong. Not that there was anything particularly wrong about what I thought, but just that I thought wrong. And I wanted to see inside people's heads. Not for the what, just this how. Like the technology is probably available to do it nowadays, but it was Ireland in the 80s. As a nation, we were still getting excited and confused by Smash, the dehydrated potato in a packet. And when I told Terry about this desire to see inside people's heads, he said, if you want to know how people think, listen to how they speak. I know, step one of how to be a therapist, listen to people. But I got the ball rolling and I started going to the shopping centres on a Saturday. Now I didn't tell him in the beginning because I didn't want him turning it into a therapy thing, and I was pretty sure shopping centres on a Saturday weren't going to be cathartic. Not unless you particularly get off on rage. So eventually I told him about the eavesdropping. I think I've missed something. No?
Yeah.
Cool. Eventually I told him about the eavesdropping, writing down the sentences. And he asked me for some of the overheard, so I brought them in. Or as he likes to call them, my therapeutic verbatim experiment. I know it's a little laddie-da, but I'm told will look amazing on a grant for the arts application. And I brought in what I had, and I left him with him, and I came back a week later. And he gave me some feedback, like it was a writers' group. Said that they were all angry and patronising and loud. And I said to him, all the other overheards on Facebook look like that. And he said, if all the other overheards on Facebook jumped off a bridge, would I jump off a bridge? He suggested that maybe the reason I was only hearing these loud things was because that's how I was looking at the world. So he set me a challenge to look and listen differently. I didn't know there were other options. He asked me to listen for the soft. I know it's a bit vague, isn't it? But then I thought, okay, and I went back to the shopping centres, and it was weeks before I heard anything that was permitted by Terry's ambiguous criteria of the soft. And then I heard it off to the left. Medically speaking, onions will only get you so far. My ears popped like on a plane in one of those proper swelling emotions that emojis will never be able to describe. And then I thought, WTF, why'd I go to perplexed mind? How's this meant to help me? Medically speaking, onions will only get you so far, but I stuffed my doubts in the to be ignored pocket, and I ran into the next session like an excited child with its first finger paint, and I proudly declaimed, medically speaking, onions will only get you so far. Terry took a moment to reassess any previous diagnosis he might have made. Then he asked me a very important question. What? I told him I heard this beautiful thing, this soft thing. He told me I needed to start introducing my topics before I spoke about them. Hadn't put my finger paint on the fridge, rubbed salt with Greg's pasty. He asked me that also cliched question. And how does that make you feel? By the end of the session, we'd learned an important lesson. My therapist's approval isn't a substitute for a dead parent's approval. Dead dad, long story, another time. Look, I realise that 51.89% of you want to tell the other 48.11% of you that medically speaking, onion will only get you so far as a line from the film in a play, A Lady in the Van, by Alan Bennett. I know now. I didn't know back then. I was having my aural awakening. Didn't have the aural awakening. It was like 5 years later, I was sat in the dark in the cinema with the other members of the Lonely Lads midweek cinema club, realising that my beautiful soft thing was Mr. Bennett's beautiful soft thing. But who knew? Culture in a shopping centre. Now, alright, let's get back to the eavesdropping. Yeah, so I was getting better at the whole listening thing. I was catching the odd bewildered shopper and Aldi arguing with themselves about the price of ski pants in July, or outside Ann Summers as suggestive, he'd a better stock naughty drawer than me. And they weren't all just leftovers from an ex. But, look, regular visits to coffee shops can become expensive. So to save your expenditure, and in my case, waistline expansion, go for a mooch. You might as well. You're in a shopping centre. Now go for the shops you already know, because you'll kind of instinctively know where the best places to eavesdrop are, and you'll know if the customer's bemused, confused, or ready to have a cry in the changing room cubicle. We've all done it. The lights in Primark are savage. So, every now and again you get that. Oh, come on. Everybody has it when I'm sitting down, notch on their belt. with the right headwear, I could look French. Sarah? Sarah?
Oh, sorry.
One job.
Connor, that's not the right page.
Are you sure?
You're in the wrong order.
Are you sure about that, Sarah? It felt a long time coming. But, oh, yeah, shit, sorry. I sort of said this before. I realise that when you tell a room full of people, no matter how liberal and willing to come out to theatre on a wet January night, they will tend to be thinking, what's he doing therapy for? Why is he doing the therapy? Oh, shit, it's going to be one of them shows. There should have been a trigger warning. So look, the story goes, I used to be a performance poet. By that I don't mean I was one of the funny ones that do all the rhyming, as one of the serious ones that didn't rhyme. But not the sort of serious who says the serious stuff about stuff you already sympathise with. You know, the sort of thing that can change the world for 20 minutes of iambic pentameter. No, if my poetry had a central message, it was, is there any point to all of this, including me? Is anyone really right? And maybe you should just be like nice, but not like in a Russell Brand kind of way, because that's just unrealistic. I'd like to give you an example of seriousness. I once wrote a show called How I Learned Everything I Know About Postmodernism from a comic book and its effect on my life. Or Bob, for those of us who smoke 30 a day. Now that show was a look at the destruction of religious belief as a necessary byproduct of our evolutionary steps in thinking since entering the high-speed global communication age. Shortly after that show, I was struck down with quite a serious illness. Coincidence? I think so. I was struck down with fibromyalgia. Lots of lights flashing. I always find it best if you introduce your long-term chronic health condition like you're introducing an American wrestler. Breaks that palpable tension that occurs when you say the name of your illness and it has just too many syllables to be anything other than shite. And possibly contagious. It's definitely one of those things. Anyone fancy a hug? It's 50-50. If you've not heard of fibromyalgia before, don't worry about it. I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I hadn't heard about it before I got it. I'll be honest, my doctor wasn't that familiar with it. The first time he mentioned it, he voiced it out phonetically as he read from a Wikipedia page printout. So that'll give you an idea what the last 12 years have been like. Mainly poorly researched wishful thinking and a mindfulness retreat at a Buddhist centre in Tromsø I'm no longer allowed to talk about in public. They might be all zen in that, but they can afford the same lawyers as the Scientologists, allegedly. So yeah, it's not actually an illness, it's a syndrome. That's a fancy word for a party pack of plague frogs. Like the first little froggy, he's called pain. And I don't mean nice, leafy, suburban Buddhist centre pain. I mean, fluff grit your teeth, try not to take my way and take my pain. This is one of those spots where I try to write jokes. And basically I've come to realise that empathy and laughter, empathy always wins. So basically, pain isn't funny, sexy, but not funny. The second symptom is chronic fatigue. Now, for those of you who aren't medically trained, that's, oh, I'm sleepy. And it's not quite as cute as it sounds. Think delusionally drunk, angry young frog that stayed up past its bedtime. The third symptom is morning stiffness. No, not that sort. Like I'm just properly useless in the morning. Takes 3 cups of coffee, 7 cigarettes and 4 visits to the toilet. And now my doctor's seen this 20 minutes of light stretching and a Nicorette patch. And that's all before I feel like a little frog that's found sobriety. And some mornings that can be like a bit of a lethal isn't a good word to use about a chronic health condition. Let's say life-altering. Like so much so, I found I had more important things to worry about than poetry. No, seriously, it changed my life. Now, I kept performing because I've got the low self-esteem issues of every performer. Please love me! Sorry, I'm working on that. So basically, I experimented with different art forms, and then I found improvisation. It's the most fibro-friendly art form in the world. No writing, no editing, no rehearsing, no show. Just show up and talk shite. I loved it so much I created a religion, and I became the Reverend Conray of the Holy Church of the Improvised Word. practical, artistic and psychosexual purposes, the dressing up as the priest, have yet to be fully resolved. Actually, somebody once asked me a question about my artistic process as the priest. They asked me a question that changed my life. Came up to him after a gig and was like, "Excuse me, Mr. A, loved your set, by the way, most moving minutes of 20 minutes iambic pentameter of my life. Me and my friends here, we were like, pondering your artistic process." It was a poetry event. They all talk like that, even the hip-hop events. And we were wondering, why do you hate yourself? No, I know this bit. I have a look, missed a bit.
No.
All right, so, tension, moment. We were wondering, why do you hate yourself so much? I know we weren't the kind of friends for that sort of talk, but in their defence, I had just done a 20-minute improvised piece about mass murderers Fred and Rose West going to a post-evangelical prayer meeting in Birmingham in the early 90s, so contextually an appropriate question. Now, it didn't change my life straight away. I'm not stupid enough to take advice from a poet. Never trust them. They'd sell their souls for a nationwide advert. You know they would. One of your friends has probably made one. She has, hasn't she? Nationwide advert. But what it did do was create this little slow puncture in my Lilo of denial, because I can't swim. Or as I like to call it, the good ship. I'm grand. The thing was, I wasn't grand. I was struggling on a holistic level. Like, people were dead supportive while they waited for me to get better from a chronic health condition. And they say dead supportive things like, "Oh, Connor, don't let the fibro break you, yeah? Keep getting back up on the horse. Could you lend us some of your tramadol, mate?" There's a lot of junkies and jockeys where I live. Oh, human. But the thing was, the truth was, and still is, my metaphorical horse is actually the donkey from the board game Buckaroo. So a bit like the donkey, I broke. I just stopped. I stopped fighting the fibro, I stopped breaking myself for applause, I stopped taking those late night lonely train replacement bus services from a gig in Hall to two skinheads and their outrageously racist granny. I just stopped. And I went into therapy. Very natural, artistic cliche. But look, before you get all judgy in that, I was unemployed, had nothing better to do with my afternoons, and I found one who was willing to see me for less than minimum wage. And much more importantly, I was desperate for help. Now, when I say therapy, at the Christmas office party and you do something stupid and then HR get involved and you have to do 6 weeks of mandatory CBT so they can secretly check that you're not a sociopath? Yeah, I don't mean that kind. I mean the kind like when you start taking it seriously, they will say things like this. "Excuse me, Mr. A, we'll circle back to that. But for now, we'd like it if you would stay out of a relationship for the next 2 years." Like, I was depressed enough as it was, but a compliment that thought I was capable of getting into a relationship. And so the 2-year thing was kind of okay, because I spent a lot of my time either single or soon to be single. So it wasn't such a burden. And anyway, they give you alternatives to human relationships. They suggest you get a plant. And if you keep that alive for a year, then you can get a pet. And if you keep that alive for a year, then you might be ready for a human relationship. Look at me! I'm a consistent caregiver! Love me and my imaginary kitties! Sorry. I'm lonely. And so, I'm missing something there. Oh yeah, imaginary kitty. So, look, if you're in my house, in my living room, you'd realise I am top of the class at keeping plants alive. I'm not so good with cats. I'm on my second one. Jamie number 2. Jamie number 1 had to move to the country. Through no fault of my own, just one day he decided he didn't want to live with me anymore. Sometimes audiences go, "Oh, there, but tonight we must have a room filled with sociopaths." So, where were we? Yeah, I know this thing. Do we? Where? What's sentence? Paragraph?
Originally I thought I was...
Oh yes, I do know that. Originally I thought I was going into therapy because of fibromyalgia, but it turned out I had a couple of pre-existing issues. Namely, I'm a bit shit at life, especially the bit you're doing out there, like the interpersonal skills. Like seriously, why do you think I do this? This is easier than saying hello to a stranger. And but of course I had these problems. I tried to be a professional performance poet, which turns out is a pathology all of its own. No, like seriously, in sessions, if I wasn't talking about the awful effects fibromyalgia was having on my life, I was wasting sessions going on about being an artist and needing to express my love me. Please. Eventually, Terry had enough of this. So one day he stopped me mid-maudlin and he said, I think I know what's wrong with you. Oh my God, tell me, what is it? Well, Conor, I think you might be suffering from MAD. God, what's that? Oh wait, that's only one syllable, cool. Oh yeah, and please let it not be my fault. Well, Conor, I think you might be suffering from moaning artist disease. Trust me to get a sarcastic therapist. Oh, that's karma for you. Yeah, you deserve that. Thank you, God. That's karma for you. Look, in accordance with information I've provided to my disabilities benefit provider, I have to have a break about every 15 or 20 minutes. So at this point, I had been hoping to introduce you to Terry. But it turns out no matter how much he slides its sliding scale, I can't afford his hourly rate for public speaking. So instead, I got this owl to play the part of Terry. He's made a short little video. Stay there, mate. No. Yeah, you're there. Oh yeah, well, the thing would be worrying. If you look over there, that white thing you go around to him, that's Terry's son. Terry's a part-time dad, he couldn't get a babysitter. If you want to know the state of the marriage, take a look at the picture on your way out.
You alright?
Yeah!
Did it get the corner?
No, I got it flat, thankfully. Oh.
Oh, it's got a head.
Ah,
You don't have to answer.
what's that?
For people
Yeah.
living in his home
Yeah.
life,
Oh,
they
that's
are
very
well
good.
managed, and his
Don't
frequent
whack the head again.
tendencies at performances.
Got a day off work doing that in Germany once.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Terry. I've been on as therapist for a while now. Actually, before I begin, I would like to point out that I'm neither being employed by an actor, let alone a competent puppeteer, and I'd like you to judge all my contributions accordingly. When Connor first arrived at my office, he was a bit of a mess. For people looking in, his home life may have seemed well managed, and his regular tendencies at performances gave him some semblance of a social life. But like many people with chronic health conditions or invisible disabilities, you only tend to see them when they're at their best. The truth was, while the performing itself may have been manageable, it was the consequences, the extreme flare-ups of his fibromyalgia that he was hiding from people that were not. He had gotten himself into a negative spiral, blindly ignoring the protests of his body as he rolled from gig to flare-up to gig to even worse flare-up, all the while spending his daytimes predicting which teams would win on repeat on Birmingham and UK Gold. Eventually, he agreed to stop performing. He has suggested that it was of his own choosing. He lied. It wasn't. It was after a lot of foot stomping, begging and pleading. I heard the phrase, "But I'm an artist," more often than any therapist should. After stopping his self-destructive performing, he found himself having to face the emotional realities of living with an invisible disability. He began to constantly safeguard himself from unnecessary flare-ups, and as a consequence, he was also losing his willingness to interact with the world outside of his flat. He agreed to take part in various pain management programs, which improved his home life, his attitude towards pain. He developed an awareness of his limits and how to push without making things too much worse. But still, he'd chirp up with regular bouts of, "But I'm an artist." So I gave him small writing exercises that were a way for him to find more happiness in his day-to-day life. If you're friends with him on Facebook, or as he likes to call you, his fans, you may have seen his Small Joys updates. I also sent him to the local shopping centre to do some people watching. It is at the end of his local bus route, and it was a thing he used to enjoy doing. And seeing as it mainly involved his eyes, he couldn't use his usual "but it'll hurt my body" excuse. Plus, he likes buses. And he told me he was eavesdropping and writing down sentences. Out of professional curiosity, I asked him to bring some into the next session. The first ones he brought were, as he likes to call them, loud. So I sent him back with a challenge to look and listen for the soft sentences. At first, I must admit I wasn't fully certain of the therapeutic value or efficacy of eavesdropping, but he stopped wasting sessions with his "but I'm an artist" talk. And more importantly, he was spending time away from Couch, who he was starting to have a codependent relationship with.
Just ignore that last bit, she was improvising. Didn't have a relationship with Couch. No one could prove it. So, look, I realise that some of you are looking at this and at Sarah and thinking, Connor, that suspiciously looks like a script. And we didn't pay good money to come in here and watch you read words from a page. If we wanted to do that, we could have just went to a poetry slam. And so, look, you are right, but you're only half right. This is a script, but one of the symptoms with fibromyalgia is a thing called fibrofog. I know, isn't it a great name? Personally, I think you can tell how seriously the medical industry take your condition by the name it gives its symptoms. So, morning stiffness and fibrofog. Quid's in, there's no research being done. So basically what fibrofog is I can have cognitive issues. So you know the way they say like jazz is all about the notes you don't play? Well, all those notes live in my head, and occasionally they try and make a song all at the same time. Other times I can like be properly forgetful. You know, like when you go from one room to another room and halfway there you forget, you go back into the original room, you remember and you get on with your life. Well, sometimes what I do is go into the room, do something else, pat myself on the back for that job, go back into the original room, sit down and then go, toilet paper. Can you give me the next one?
I'd love to go for an audition.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to go for an audition at the Royal Shakespeare Company, you know, in front of Sir Kenneth Branagh doing for Hamlet. And just, no, Sir Kenneth, it's not a script, Kenneth. It's a reasonable adjustment in the workplace. So, I didn't get that role. It was very unlikely. Also, you might all be now a bit worried that this is going to become one of those, pain, let me tell you about pain. Or here's a shopping list of everyone who's ever wronged me, and other reasons why I don't get invited to family occasions. It's neither of those shows. Also, if you were thinking that the overheards work like some sort of second-hand Freudian slip, like Terry did, come on, seriously, what does the sentence, "I've dabbled in falafel," what's that tell you about me? Nothing, because I didn't say it. So from here on out, it's all Aldi own brand oral epiphanies. Oh, actually, I won't tell you this at the beginning. Epiphanies and personal revelations are useless unless followed up like seriously hard work on yourself. And Gubbins here says nothing, it's just, yeah, that's great, that's a really good breakthrough. We'll come back to that in a few weeks' time when you realise it's the tip of the iceberg. Emotional childhood issues! Cha-ching! Selfish, greedy sod. So, anyway, go back to eavesdropping, yeah? Now, After the family, the next best group to follow is the couples. Oh, sorry, in terms of group density to over... Little fecker. This is what fibre folks like. And some people can't decide if this is real or written into the script. Sarah's looking really quick for these words, but they're not there. So, yeah. Oh, God, where was I? I know. Oh, yeah. So, next best group to follow. In terms of eavesdropping maths, in terms of group density to overheard frequency, the next best group to follow is the couple. Now, initially, I went for couples who were fighting in public because they're the simplest to spot and easiest to eavesdrop. And I love it. It's like watching Coronation Street, but live. Terry has suggested that I might enjoy it a little bit too much and that I might suffer from schadenfreude. But, you know, what's he on? He's an owl. I'm getting really forgetful here. 2 seconds.
Terry says that it's not the right attitude.
Oh, yeah. Terry says that's not the right attitude to have. I told him I was just trying to cultivate an attitude of gratitude like he taught me to. He gave me one of those looks, you know. Shut up. Oh yeah, next week we're going to work on your empathy until you cry. So, but well, look, what's he know? He's a stuffed owl. See if these don't make you feel grateful. Flirting with a woman selling you a wedding ring. You're the definition of class. If you loved me, you'd let me eat pork pies in bed. Oh yeah, sorry, I can't do this next one to somebody's face, it's just a little bit too cruel. So Nick Jorrick from the Royal Shakespeare. I'd rather be lonely than spend an evening with you. I know, it's a bit harsh. But at least you know your relationship's definitely over at that point. It was a pity the rest of Topshop had to find out as well. So funny to watch. Terry got a bit of bone stuck in the old Bernard Shaw. That's owl rhyming slang for craw. He got a little bit worried about my fascinations with exploding couples, so he sent me to hunt the happy couples. But the truth is, content couples don't say much. Well, much of interest to an eavesdropper. Now, couples in that early blissful stage of the relationship, you know, which tell everybody that we're in love and, oh God, I just had sex! They're brilliant to follow and they're easy to eavesdrop because they're all in hands in a shopping centre on a Saturday, even though it's completely socially irresponsible. And they're not just stoically holding hands because that's what social convention dictates. No, they'll be swinging their arms all willy-nilly, stopping anywhere they like to lean in for an unnecessary display of public affection, and all the while showering themselves with a lemonade fountain of compliments. I'm not against compliments or other people's happiness. It's just I don't get compliments like you people. I like your shoes. Oh, you smell like a sexy ice cream, all lavender and lemon. You've got a pleasantly shaped head. No, instead I get things like this, via text. Oh, Connor, my lovely, you are indeed a special kind of strange. Kiss, kiss. And that was from somebody who didn't want to go on date number 2. But look, if you can stand the saccharine-scented bubblegum gush of it all, you will hear things like this. Knowing that much about Batman shouldn't be sexy, but it is. I love you so much I'd commit fraud in your name. All right, sorry, that's obviously not a healthy expression of love, this one is. Let's go home and steal next door's paddling pool and drink till they call the cops. Obviously that's not a healthy expression of love. They sounded like an amazing couple. I did nearly follow them home. So, yeah, alright, this one. You know the biscuits in the top drawer that you think I don't know you steal from? I put them there just for you. And oh, the yucky. It's awful, it's horrible, awful line. As encouraging as it was listening to couples in public talking and in therapy, talking about the hard work it takes to make a relationship work, before the hard work can even start, there's the prequel, dating. Now, dating for me is a kind of grey, fuzzy, semi-theoretical place. Like, I've been on them, but unlike my ownership of cats, I've never had a second one. Where I only can presume this is the sort of stuff that happens. I've never said this to anyone before, but yeah, I'll go camping with you. And then you get married. I don't know, I'm not like a relationship guru, am I? But from listening, I feel less alone, and I'm not the only one making mistakes. I presumed a local source of honey was a euphemism. It wasn't. I know it's not romantic, but at least we both got armrests. Alright, that one was in the cinema. It was the classic. We started out as lovers, who ended up as friends on Facebook. Anybody experience that one? People don't want to admit to that, or just, I've got a really bad love life. So, yeah. Yeah, that's the one, yeah. Yeah, I know where we were. That was it. So as much as all of this was sort of helping me, my eHarmony profile had reached a state of inertia that scientists only thought possible inside a vacuum. So Terry suggested that maybe instead of trying to unpick the stickers from the Rubik's Cube that is relationships, that I should set my sights a little lower and try and make some friends. You see, because of stopping performing, I lost love. Alright, sorry, that's a lie. When I got fibromyalgia, I lost a lot of friends. And I used to sort of rationalise it. That's how it is in a big city. When you're not seen, you get forgotten about. And I'd justify it. Ask myself, had I been any better to people with disabilities when I've been able-bodied? Alright, Terry. That's not the truth. I lost a lot of friends because of how I was managing myself and the fibro. You see, somewhere between a Danny Dyer loose women special on Danny Dyer and my afternoon painkiller, I'd forgotten, have I jumped? I'd forgotten how to be a friend. Terry asked me what I thought friendship could now mean, and I didn't really know anymore. And then I remember hearing someone say this: I want you to become someone I can say, do you remember when to? I wanted that. Terry said if I wanted that, then I was going to have to do better than I'm grand in a self-deprecating comment. He said people wanted more than that from their friends. They wanted at least a little emotional honesty. See, at the time, I didn't know I was having proper nameable emotions. Everybody else did. I was just sort of barreling through it, and I'm grand and an occasional cry at the top of the stairs, which isn't easy when you've only got access to a communal stairwell, and there's a 2-week waiting list. And yeah, there's something wrong about the imagery there that I could never get past.
But what, the next bit?
Yeah.
But now having gone through some...
Oh Christ, I should know this, it's all about my ego. Now having gone through some therapy, I've come to realise I have emotions just like you people. Now, I'm not being boastful or nothing, but I now, no, thingy. So, yeah, we're back here to meet. So, the thing is, learning your emotions as an adult, it is an easy process to describe. So, me and Terry made the short dramatic reenactment. While the thing's whizzing down, if you'd like to see these pictures. These are photographs that Terry's wife, ex-wife, sends me from her, she's on holidays, she likes to call it her alimony tour.
Hello, Gunnar. How are you feeling today?
Grand.
Now, Gunnar, we both agree that isn't an answer. So, how are you feeling today?
I don't know, stuff.
Okay, just for today, let's try a different approach. How does what you're feeling sound? Let it out as a sound. Now, that's how you feel about the question. Let's try again. How does how you're feeling sound? No words, just the sound.
Okay. No.
Okay, that's good.
No.
Check longer. Keep letting the sound out. Take a breath.
Now, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling lonely. What's creepy? So, that was a good day. Those 3 little words filled me with joy. That ache in my chest that had travelled with me for years had a name. Lonely. And with a name I was able to understand it and grow. Now, I'm not being boastful or nothing, but I can name and identify the 4 basic emotions. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or in therapeutic speak, halt. Terry being the ever-professional and wanting to get in the Dr. Phil market, he's made a short educational video for you. So,
That's very generous of you, Gunnar. We should talk about this psychology. This is the real reason you're still single. Okay, folks. Obviously, if you've seen the film Inside Out, you'll know that hungry, angry, lonely, and tired aren't the 4 basic emotions. But hold is actually a wonderful therapeutic tool for dealing with those days when you're like, I'm in the mood, and you have no idea why. It could be the most beautiful spring day that guy at the bus stop came up, said hello, flirted, and arranged the date, and your bus arrived on time, and you're still in the mood. You can use the HALT checklist. It's a bit of a Roncio abbreviation. Firstly, you do what it says, and halt. Stop. Take a moment. And ask yourself these 4 questions. Am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I lonely? Am I tired? If you're any of these things, go away and deal with it. This will often shift the mood. If you're still in a mood afterwards, then it's got something to do with your childhood, and you should come and see me. To book an appointment, call 0161 568 729.
so I did learn some things about friendship from eavesdropping, oddly enough. I learned there are different types of friends. You've got your not hello to friends, you've got your we'll hug and have a little chat just to say hello but wouldn't necessarily invite each other around for a cup of tea friends. You've got your I'm mainly friends with you because you've got a car. And then there are the special ones, the ones worth investing in, even if they don't have a car. You know where, like in the shape of a cup of tea, you can be laughed at, laughed with, have listened and been listened to. These sort of friends. For someone who doesn't want to get married, you cry a lot at Don't Tell the Bride. Yeah, well I don't know where you get off on saying that. You still have to work out the difference between regular proximity and love. My friend had been single that long, they'd forgotten how good it was to get a good night text. Yeah! Sometimes you can only tell it as if it's someone else's story. If I'm ever going to get into a relationship, I'm going to have to learn to not shout cuddles every time a cat comes in the room. So, now, yeah, eavesdropping, it isn't just for therapy. Has a real world practical applications. Like seriously, I've been using the overheards to help me to make friends. I use them as conversational starters. I've dabbled in falafel. What about you? That got me my first friend, John. I'm up to 2 friends now, I know. Skills. And they're good people and real. One of them even went so far as to be my decoy girlfriend, so I'd go eavesdropping in Marks and Spencer's Brad apartment. It's a tale for another day. It's so much fun, but it's mainly a tale of middle-aged men trying not to look at anything they might find arousing, and me trying to make them feel worse. Oi, darling! Do you want balcony or push-up in the leopard print? What do you think, my friend? Seriously, it's the best afternoon. Just don't go with somebody who's PMT and decided that's the day to get a bra fitting. Wow, so much chocolate was bought after that. So, anyway, let's get back. I'm cutting that out, that's not good enough. If I have to take a less direct approach with people, I'll sit while everyone stands and I'll listen as they speak, and if I hear something that I can link to an overheard, I'll do the whole I heard funny story shtick. Now the traditionally funny ones are okay, going to the toilet in the sea, romantic biscuit theft, Albert Medic at the cinema. I've learned to avoid death, adultery, you never know at a dinner party, and serious illness. No one ever really wants to know. They much prefer to talk about their collection of antique egg timers. I have to go to better dinner parties. I've never actually been to a dinner party, and I'm middle class, it's like my birthright. Nobody's ever invited me. My friends have said that the reason I might not have been invited is because I have one of those personalities that while on stage is permissible, in real life can be a bit of a challenge. Just ask John. No, seriously, when I meet new people, I tend to stay quiet for the first half an hour, and then, you know, I'll just get the lay of the land, and then I'll let a little bit of me out. You can tell a lot about a man by the gaps in his internet history. Sorry, you're right, I shouldn't have interrupted your conversation about Trump's breakfast. I'll just go over here. Knock jokes on with death threats in my accent. Okay, not your cup of tea, but they laugh, so shh. Come on, I might have made a friend. So I said to John here, the boss didn't need to know your VEET regime or your philosophy on pubic grooming. Bundle of blank stares. I must find Maureen exits, and I'm left standing alone by the ironic fondue set, once again berating myself with an internal chorus of, what you been a dickhead for? Stop being a dickhead. What you been a dickhead for? Stop fucking up situations. Words and music by Kate Nash. Dance moves, 100% me, and an Irish Catholic childhood. Now, if I've passed or failed the Am I a Dickhead test and have introduced myself to nice new people and I've told them about Overheard in the Arndale, the next question I'm very big asked is, are they real? Yeah, 100%. You know, I get tempted to write your own. Yeah, but only to make them more grammatically correcter. That gets a bit of a giggle and ask a deflecting question. Have you met John here? He makes his own falafel. And the conversation moves on to John, because I run in some very middle class circles. I know my way around an artisanal sausage roll, that's all I'll say.
The truth is,
Oh, yeah. Why would I not want to say that? The truth is, I do write some of them. Look, before you get any judgy in that, you would too if you're out in shopping centres as much as me, and you're shackled by Terry's ambiguous criteria, the soft. And look, in the beginning, Terry seemed to like them, and I really wanted him to like me. And plus, they were a great way to distract from having to be emotionally honest in a session. Later on, when things were going a bit better and I was being a bit more proactive about my emotional health, and I wanted to bring up a topic but I didn't know how to, I'd slip one in that might steer the conversation in a certain direction. I can't be the only one who learned to swim on an ironing board. Other times I wrote them because they were the words my head said while I was waiting for the kettle to boil in the morning. Other times, later on, Terry would start handing me bits of paper at the end of a session with sentences I'd said on it. And now initially I presumed they were for Overheard in the Arndale, but they were just things he wanted me to have to think about. I look at Twitter and Facebook more than I look out the window. And maybe because of the whole Twitter window face thing, Terry suggested putting them online, so I did. And it was good to be putting something back out there, even if it was only a small percentage of me. I felt like I'd gotten something back, something I'd let slip between clumsy metaphors about pain and pictures of my cat. And yeah. Oh, I'm fucking that. Oh yeah. Plus, the whole likes and shares were like little rounds of applause, 32. Little rounds of applause, and maybe because of those, as Terry likes to call them, self-induced ego massages, I thought I'd like to try again, to try this. And this time, like, it wasn't a whim because somebody gave me a pre-shirt for free, psychosexual me arts, I'm just cheap. And so we started talking about it a lot, like what I'd be letting back into my life, all the extra pain, all the extra isolation, all the extra fatigue, and could I live with that? Could I accept it? And I thought I at least wanted to find out if I could. So we got on it, we started keeping pacing diaries, made pie charts, flow charts, made up little mantras. Well, not so much mantras as chair-based cheerleading routines. We did some SWOT analysis, set some goals, came back a week later, set some achievable goals, Came back a few weeks later, set some potentially achievable goals. And then I thought, what do I want to write about? The last few years of my life had mainly been about managing the fibro and recalibrating my head, and I was pretty sure I didn't want to talk about either of those things in public. Like the first couple of drafts, I didn't want to talk about those things in public. The overheard seemed like the overheard seemed like an obvious choice. There was lots of them, and I felt pretty sure I could kind of knuckle them into some sort of lukewarm fringe show. Like in the early versions of this, I made no mention of doing it because my therapist told me to. It was actually Terry spent a long time trying to get me to see that my therapy was part of this story. I was just hesitant to talk about therapy because for me there isn't like an inciting incident, there isn't someone to blame for the state I was in. And fibromyalgia aside, most of my issues predated it. And I probably could have done something about them years ago if I hadn't been so busy, being angry at myself. Terry had a much harder job trying to get me to see that living with an invisible disability was part of the story, because fibromyalgia as a narrative device is pants. There's no backstory, there's no concrete arc, there's no triumphant conclusion, there's just this cycle of, I'm having a bad day, it's because of fibromyalgia. Did a small bit of a huge thing, yay me! Go team Connor, staying positive. Ow. I'm in pain. It's because of the small thing. Had a wash, yay me! Staying positive. Go team Connor. Tired because of the fib. Aren't they pretty flowers? Staying positive. FTW. Good, Connor. I'm having a medically approved day off. Now, I live that life joyfully, but I can't find it a bit tedious, so I could only imagine what an audience would make of it. No, like, seriously, think about how many people you've unfollowed on Facebook or Twitter because they're just too repetitively moany and dull. Don't give me that look. Statistically speaking, you're within 4 seats of someone you've done it to. I love the tension in the room. Has anybody ever deleted someone just because they were too relentlessly chirpy and happy? Good, you're my friends. But Terry was right. My Overheard in the Arndale story is a story about therapy and about living with an invisible disability. I was just being overcautious because I'd spent long years shouting loud words into angry microphones and typing thinly veiled updates about how unhappy I was. And I wanted to tell a nicer story, a softer story, a story wider than its margins, less lemon than my life. And this is a story I have to tell. It's a collection of other people's post-it note stories, and occasionally I slip in a post-it note from me and Jamie, just to say hello. Okay, all the ones about cats are about me and Jamie, apart from the Cuddles one, that's not me. And other times I used to slip them in as little hellos, little things that I didn't want to be honest about. I didn't want you to know I keep laughing inappropriately during group therapy. The group hates it. Therapist thinks I'm making progress. And I didn't want you to know that this had been said about me. It wasn't so much he said the first thing that came into his head. He said the next thing as well. And I've been trying to learn the truth that there's no future in someone who's mainly made of yesterdays. Terry wrote that one, but he's not getting credit because he didn't show up in person. And I've been trying to follow John's granddad's advice. Always create a life worth fighting for. Now, I'll be honest, that's more of a work in progress. So obviously, I'm not some whole, fixed, self-actualised thingamabob. But what can you expect? I told you, fibromyalgia is a narrative device is pants. There's no conclusion. There is a compliment, though. Terry made me a compliment the other day. I think he might like me. He said that I was doing well, and that he's now proud to say I am slightly less damaged than I used to be. So I'm going to leave now, but I want to leave you with my favourite Overheard of them all. It was from this little emo couple. You know, on the weekend when all the emos and the goths come in from the suburbs and they go into the specialist shops and they get all dizzy from beads and then they just go to shopping centres and lie at awkward angles? Well, I spotted this couple. I knew they were a couple because they were holding hands, and I forgave them because they were holding hands like they had intimacy issues. But I don't know what prompted it, but she just sort of turned to me and went, "We're not damaged, darling. We're just differently shaped." Thank you, good night, you've been lovely. Leave. So yeah, thank you. I want to sleep now. Oh, you've meetings and that, don't you?
Yeah, I've probably got
Yeah.
some steps, but thank you.
Cool, nice. Thanks for sitting through that. I know I have to keep this going for the next hour, otherwise I'll fall down.
So that was like 1 hour.
Was that
Yeah,
pretty
about
tight
an
on?
hour.